On August the 4th, 1972, a chilling announcement echoed across Uganda's airwaves. President Idi Amin declared that all Asians must leave Uganda within 90 days.
Last Friday, I announced the decision of my government to ask the British government to take over responsibility for the British citizens of Asian origin living in Uganda who were sabotaging the economy of this country.
Stripped of all their belongings and allowed only £55 and 2 suitcases, Asian families faced brutal enforcement by armed troops. As chaos ensued, many people were murdered. Women in particular suffered unspeakable atrocities. The horrors experienced and witnessed still haunt people today, with memories too painful to revisit. Although a mere fraction of Uganda's populace, Asians generated 90% of the nation's tax revenue, running shops, factories, farms, and other businesses. Inevitably, the expulsion of Asians led to the collapse of the Ugandan economy. 28,000 of the expelled Ugandan Asians who had British passports came to the UK. Many other countries accepted those who were expelled. However, countless others became stateless and separated from loved ones because they had Ugandan citizenship. The Ugandan Resettlement Board was set up and created 16 temporary camps in the UK, including at Tonvanai in Gwynedd. Once an army camp established in 1937, it would now host 1,700 residents. This included people moved from other camps to Tonvanai. Conditions in the camps were poor, and they were often situated in isolated locations. However, they provided a temporary refuge where people could share their experiences as well as hopes and fears. Local people stepped up to help and support. Many friendships and community bonds were created. Life was a blend of uncertainty and resilience for the new arrivals. Chandrika Joshi was a resident at the Tonvanai camp and shares her memories.
One of the main events was that my mother became ill and became very ill. She had rheumatic fever in the refugee camp, and of course we didn't know it was rheumatic fever, and heart was affected, joints were swollen, etc. And so my sister and I went to the medical center and said that because my mother couldn't go to the medical center, she couldn't walk because Tonvanai camp is very hilly. It's you've got to go climb a hill to go to the medical center. And the nurse said to my sister and I that it was raining a bit then, and she said, "It rains here all the time. And just because it rains, you can't turn around and say she can't come here. You've got to bring her here, otherwise no one's going to come there and see her." And we went home and told my mum that they won't come, and we've got to walk over. And then we walked, my sister and I and my mother. And my mother, you can imagine, with rheumatic fever, with the acute infection, with the heart, cardiac sort of affected, and walking, and my mother would walk a few steps and then stop and sit down and walk a few steps and sit down. And then a milk van passed by, and then he stopped and he said, "Shall I take you?" And we said, "Yeah." And then he took, of course, my mum to the medical center. And of course, as soon as the doctor examined her, he said, "No, you can't go home. You've got to be admitted now." She survived. She did live, but she never quite recovered. My mother had a nervous breakdown in the hospital because I think she overheard that there was a priest she's learning English, right? So she had a dictionary and she was learning English, etc. And she overheard someone talking about that there was a priest who's been involved in an accident. So that was really traumatic. And she thought, "Oh my God, we've just left the country and now a priest has had an accident. There can't be many priests around here, so it would be my husband. What's going to happen to my children?"
And was it?
It wasn't my father, no. But once she had a nervous breakdown, of course, that
It's difficult to get back.
difficult to get back, yeah. I would say that the earlier 5 years of our lives were really tough.
Duration of the stay at the camps varied. Most residents spent several months to a year before moving. The Uganda Resettlement Board identified red areas where it discouraged Asians from settling and encouraged people to go to green areas where they would receive assistance with housing and finding work. Despite advertisements taken up to discourage people to go to certain red areas, some still moved to be near relatives or existing Asian communities and over time developed vibrant and prosperous local areas. The camp at Tonvanai operated until 1973. Early challenges included being subjected to open racial abuse and prejudice.
Quite a large proportion of us joined the school bus which went to Dolgethly, which was about 3/4 an hour run every morning, and then we travelled all the way back every evening. The issues there were that there were some quite strong-minded skinheads, or whatever you want to call them, with bubble boots on, jeans, and big guys. And remember, we were timid to understand what's going on, and this fighting. It's like, okay, we grew up in a war zone, but we'd never seen that sort of thing before. And you'd get pushed from this place, and you'd feel like, wait, how dare you talking? Okay, you'd move. And that just carried on.
Despite this, many Ugandan Asians made Wales their home. They worked hard, taking on any available work in factories, mines and on farms. Some set up shops, post offices and other businesses. As communities settled, many religious and cultural buildings and spaces were established. The former Tonvanai camp is now farmland. The stories of those who passed through its gates are a testament to the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. From the turmoil of expulsion to Cynefin, the term that encapsulates the sense of belonging and connection with our landscape, the story of Ugandan Asians in Wales, the nation of sanctuary. It is a journey from expulsion to resilience, where sanctuary seekers are welcomed and their unique contribution to the rich tapestry of Welsh life celebrated.